name is Father Patrick Cronauer. I am a Benedictine monk from St. Vincent Archabbey in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, and I am a native son of the Altoona-Johnstown Diocese. Some of my background: I've been a priest for 39 years and have had an itinerant vocation. I started off at St. Vincent in 1969 in the prep school, which was their high school. I then finished high school and went to the Holy Land, to Jerusalem, in 1972, where I began to study biblical languages, biblical history, lived in a Benedictine monastery there for 3 years. And then when I discerned to leave that community, I joined an French Augustinian community, where I ended up in Massachusetts. I finished my college there, did my theology in Boston, and did an extra master's degree in theology, and then went to Worcester, Massachusetts, and was ordained, and eventually spent 5 years as a parish priest. All right, I came back from the Assumptionists, the Augustinian community, in 1989. I returned to St. Vincent, transferred my vows there, and began teaching in 1990, both at St. Vincent College and in St. Vincent Seminary. It was in 1990 that I became involved in the permanent diaconate program for Altoona-Johnstown, teaching on these academic weekends. I began teaching in 1990, and as soon as I returned from doctoral work, I picked up where we left off. And for the last 20 years, roughly, I've been teaching a cycle of 3 courses in this program. The first course is a course that we entitled Divisio Textus, and this is a course technically in critical reading, teaching the deacon candidates a course in which I train them in a classical method of reading documents critically. And it just happens that in the last 10 years, I believe, the document that I use for that course is a text of a speech that Pope John Paul II, now St. John Paul II, gave to a gathering of deacons, permanent deacons and their wives, on one of his visits to the United States. The reason I chose that document to study with the deacon candidates is because it gives, in a few brief pages, a very, very good synthesis of the theology of the permanent diaconate. And so by not only learning this critical method of reading, the candidates are also being introduced to the profound theology of the permanent diaconate. The second course that I teach is a course called Exodus and Paschal Event, where I lead the students through the Old Testament, and especially the Exodus out of Egypt and the wilderness journey, and lead them through the theology of these texts, the celebration of the Passover, and how we move into the New Testament, and how Christ celebrated the Passover meal with his disciples, instituting the Holy Eucharist. The final course is a course that I'm currently teaching, and it is a course on the covenants of the Bible. So we begin all the way back in the Garden of Eden, and we do a brief survey of the various covenants and what covenant means in terms of a relationship with our God. And we go through the whole of the Old Testament and right up and through the new covenant in Christ. So I mentioned that in the first course I teach in critical reading, we study this document of Pope St. John Paul II on the theology of the permanent diaconate. If you or anybody you know might be sensing the need to become more involved in not only your faith, but involved in ministry in the church, perhaps a vocation to the permanent diaconate, I strongly encourage you to take a look at the program that the diocese offers. Speak to those who are in formation now for the permanent diaconate program. Speak to a permanent diaconate deacon who might be serving in your parish and ask them what their experience is. The diaconate focuses on three major areas of ministry in the church: ministry of the word, ministry of the altar, and ministry of charity. And each deacon is called and ordained to assist the priests and the bishops of the church in outreach in all three of these areas. Sometimes it happens that a particular deacon, depending on his station in life, his marriage, his family, and his job commitments, will focus on one of those three particular areas of ministry. Some focus in all three, but regardless of which one you focus in, you are of permanent deacon is called. It is an ordained ministry of the church. It changes you fundamentally, and it changes the church fundamentally when you can dedicate your life to word, altar, and charity, serving the people of God as a positive witness of faith, of hope, and of love, that Christ came and sacrificed his life to save all people, to save us all. And you can help people by pursuing the possibility in your life of becoming a permanent deacon and serving God's people in whatever way he has called you to serve. It is a lifelong vocation, a witness, and a vocation in particular of love of neighbor and love of God.